If you like what I do, consider joining my channel or donating to my coffee. Links in the description.
Something is coming through the wall.
Oh no!
Oh no!
Oh no!
Oh no!
Oh no!
Oh yeah! That wall was a precious family heirloom.
Oh no!
It's not entirely uncommon for me to get completely addicted to a really good MV. After all, the Metroidvania is my favorite genre, if you couldn't tell. So when Voidwrought got its hooks into me, I didn't think much of it. I was just like, sweet, we got ourselves another banger here. And then I proceeded to finish the game in 2 sittings, which also isn't unusual for me, considering most MVs are around 10-ish hours anyway. But let me tell you, at about 3/4 of the way through the game, I was having some serious thoughts about whether or not Voidwrought was an actual contender for Hollow Knight's MV crown. Does Hollow Knight hold the MV crown? I mean, it's not my favorite MV, but it's hard to deny its greatness. You all let me know in the comments which game you think is the king or queen of Metroidvanias. Whether or not that statement's true, what's undeniable is that Voidwrought is an amazing Metroidvania, and there is no debate. And if that's all you need to hear from me, I appreciate you stopping by. Now, go play Voidwrought. For anyone still with me, you might want to know what the game's about. I'll try my best to set it up. In this world, there's an ancient city buried deep beneath the surface. At the turn of each century, the Red Star returns to the land, and the dead city rises, bringing with it Ichor, the blood of dead gods. The denizens of this land are beckoned by the Red Star to this ancient city, enticed by riches, the blessings of Ichor, and the city's ancient knowledge. So, obviously, you play as a tomb raider ready to stuff your pockets with gold, artifacts, and God's blood, right? Nope, you're this thing that bursts from a cocoon, which I'm certain doesn't bode well. What's this thing's deal? You'll have to play it to find out. That's a pretty interesting setup and only gets more intriguing as you journey through the city. And though I've already let the simulacrum out of the cocoon by saying Voidwrought is an amazing MV, how amazing is it, and what makes it so amazing?
Combat.
I'm going to say a couple general things about Voidwrought's combat before I say a third thing that may come off as negative. First thing, Voidwrought's combat is good and controlling the simulacrum feels great. He's speedy and moves through the air with the grace of a gazelle. Second thing, I enjoyed Voidwrought's combat. Slashing with your claw and pogoing felt highly satisfying. Now, the third thing. Combat is Voidwrought's weakest aspect. And though I say combat's its weakest aspect, that's actually saying a lot because every other aspect is so freaking strong. But we'll get into all that soon enough. First, we gotta dive into combat proper. I might as well get out what makes combat so weak. It's the bosses. They're all jokes. Every single one of them is a clown. But the simulacrum will absolutely
Tear you up like a Kleenex at a snot party!
Aside from the first boss, who was actually quite challenging, I face-tanked the rest of the heralds. I couldn't even tell you any of the heralds' attacks because I was too busy slicing them apart with my claws like I was the goddamn Tasmanian devil. This lack of boss challenge might be a point of contention for some MV enthusiasts because many feel boss fights and their challenge are huge components to MVs. And so Hollow Knight enjoyers may scoff at the mere thought of me suggesting Voidwrought is a contender for its crown. And ultimately, I guess that's fair. I can't tell you what you should enjoy in an MV. So if challenging boss fights are something you value heavily in your MV experience, Voidwrought may leave you wanting in this department. But trust me when I say, I still had a blast ripping the heralds to shreds. It may not have been challenging, but it satiated the part of my brain that craves a power fantasy. And also trust me when I say Voidwrought has many other exceptional qualities, which we'll get into as we dive into the other sections. Let's talk about combat specifics. The simulacrum has a ground attack and an air attack that can be used in the 4 major cardinal directions, and striking something pushes him back a little, just like a certain little knight we all know and love. And for a while, this will be the only means of interacting with enemies. So combat initially feels very anemic, but stick with it and it will eventually evolve. Combat's main evolution comes with its relics. The simulacrum can equip 2 relics at a time, 1 for each trigger, and these bad boys can be reassigned at any time by simply pausing the game and re-equipping them in the relics menu. The attacks from relics vary wildly, One shoots a vertical laser that sets foes on fire, while another is literally a proximity mine. There are a lot of relics to play and experiment with, and they're a lot of fun to use. Relic usage requires void charges, these little purple orbs, and void charges, charge by hitting enemies. A simple yet effective system we've all grown to love. As for defensive options, the Simulacrum really doesn't have much. He eventually gets a slide and a dash, but neither innately come with iframes. So you're either going to be doing a lot of jumping away to avoid counterattacks, or just pogoing everything, which is super fun. There's an Estus Flask type healing mechanic you can use called Salt, and it's the only way to heal yourself outside of save points. The last thing I want to talk about with combat is death. Dying has 0 consequences. No dropped loot, no corpse running, no having to re-get any items over again. When you die, you just get pushed back to your last save point with all the currency and items you obtained and no repercussions. This is how all MV deaths should be handled. Take notes, other devs. And that's it for combat. There are a couple other attacks the Simulacrum gets, but they don't drastically change combat's flow. So yeah, with cake bosses and super simplistic combat, you could see how combat could be considered Voidwrought's weakest aspect. But again, trust me when I say it's still fun to kill stuff, and simple or simplistic are not dirty words on my channel.
Abilities, platforming.
Hey, this is Future Luke. I geek out pretty hard about a particular ability you can unlock, and upon review, I came off as a little too spoilery for my liking. But since it's the crux of a lot of what I discuss in this section, it felt weird saving it for a spoiler section. So I'm just going to give you all a quick summary up front and give you the option to skip the section entirely to avoid any potential spoilers. So, in summary, Voidwrought's abilities and platforming are great. The Simulacrum's controls are so smooth. He gets a bunch of skills that we've seen in other MVs, but he does get a very unique skill I geek out about in spoilery detail. Feel free to skip to the next chapter to avoid potential spoilers. For everyone else, I now return you to your original programming. Man, do I have a lot to say here. The Simulacrum gets some really cool abilities, and it's just fun to move around as in general. He gets some tried and true abilities like a slide, a dash, double jump, and a wall jump. He also gets less common abilities like a hook shot and some other environment dependent abilities. But then he gets his own unique ability, the unstable nuclei. This ability is completely broken in all the right ways and essentially makes a lot of the other abilities redundant. I got this ability pretty early in the game, it would seem, a testament to how open this game is, but more on that in the exploration section. There were so many places where I needed certain abilities to advance, but the unstable nuclei had other plans, allowing for some really awesome sequence breaking, an MV staple. And what made using the nuclei so fun for sequence breaking is that you still had to finagle things a bit to create the perfect situation to pull off the break. Nothing was given to you, which made pulling off the break that much more satisfying. But I'll delve deeper into this in the exploration section. But yeah, even though the unstable nuclei was overpowered and devalued a lot of the other abilities, it made Voidwrought an exceptional experience. Now, you have to keep in mind, this was my experience. I got the unstable nuclei very early. For reference, for those who've already played through the game, I got the unstable nuclei before even entering the courts. I bet someone who got the unstable nuclei much later in the game came away with a much different outlook on the mechanic. They may have just viewed the move as a much slower wall jump, which was the last ability I unlocked, by the way, and thus they didn't find the unstable nuclei to be as impactful or game-changing. Again, a testament to how open this game truly is. As for the game's platforming, it's superb. The Simulacrum moves so quickly and gracefully. There's not a lot of challenging platforming sections, but what's here is fun. And like I said earlier, I broke a lot of the platforming simply by unlocking the unstable nuclei so early, which I would like to reiterate was awesome. Getting the unstable nuclei so early and breaking the game's intended platforming progression, challenge, and utility gating was quite possibly the best reward the game had to offer. And with a game that's already so freaking rewarding, that's a big statement. That's it for this section. These aspects are tough to talk about because due to the game's openness, experiences are gonna vary wildly. I hope hearing about my experience brought about some insight into how unique and special Voidwrought really is.
Progression.
I want to get this out of the way because I've been seeing people stating that Voidwrought is a Souls-like or Soulsvania. This is far from the truth. Though it shares some Soulsvania mechanics like its healing flasks and souls system, which I'll discuss shortly, that's really all it shares with a genre from a gameplay perspective. Voidwrought is closer to being a Metroid-like if anything. There are no XP or leveling systems, no gear, no skill trees. There are only 4 things a Simulacrum can enhance: his HP, his amount of healing flasks, his void charges, and his attack. And each of these things can be enhanced by finding stuff while exploring. To increase your HP, you have to find 3 of a thing, so that's simple. To enhance the other things, however, is a little more involved and interesting. But I don't want to get into all that. Discovering how to enhance your other enhanceable attributes is part of the fun. But I'll give you a hint. Build up your shrine. One of the coolest aspects of Voidwrought is its base building mechanic. It's not super deep, at least not as of this video's publication, but it is highly rewarding. Basically, your shrine needs some remodeling or excavating, and the only way to do this is to spend cash and hire workers. Ichor is this game's main currency that can be obtained by slaughtering your enemies, and the workers are called devotees. These little zealots who worship and bow down at pretty much everything in the shrine. You add devotees to your shrine by lighting beacons you find while exploring, and once you have enough Ichor and devotees for a specific project, you can commission them to dig. And the stuff they find will surprise you, so maybe make excavating a priority. I mentioned Ichor as the game's main currency, but there are almost a half dozen others. Trace metal, artifact fragments, divine remnants, metal ingots, and god flesh. I suppose you can say a few of those are less like currency and more like crafting materials, but there's no crafting in this game, and most of these currencies have an exchange rate attached to them for when you convert them from one currency to another. Needless to say, this game doesn't just have a healthy economy, it has its own freaking market. So, what do you do with all these different currencies? There are a few shops found throughout the Gray City, and some shopkeepers require specific currency. It's not overly complicated, and the stuff you can buy are mainly relics, though there is a special shop that sells souls. So that's neat. Souls are this game's Hollow Knight equivalent to charms. They modify the Simulacrum and alter the game experience in a ton of different ways, like increasing the amount of Ichor enemies drop, give you extra health, summon little dudes to fight alongside you, or give your slides and dashes iframes. You can equip 3 at a time and can re-equip them whenever you want from the pause menu. Voidwrought has a decent amount of side quests, each with a pretty solid reward. Most are game spanning, requiring you to collect stuff and return them to someone, but there are some one-offs in there to mix things up. There are even decisions to be made during these side quests that can alter the story in minor ways, and that's good for replayability. That'll do it for progression. There are a few stats you can enhance through exploration and discovery. You got yourself a cool base to build, and there are lots of different currencies and shops to play around with.
Exploration.
Alright boys, this is where the fun truly begins. Exploration in Voidwrought is top tier stuff and is exactly why I got so addicted. Okay, I need to level with you. I'm a Metroidvania fanatic, and I presume since you're watching my content, you too are a Metroidvania fanatic. And being a Metroidvania fanatic means we like things that would frustrate your average gamer, such as getting hopelessly lost, or having absolutely no idea where to go or how to advance the story, or backtracking through the same areas over and over and over and over again. We relish in uncertainty and covet the unknown. Aimlessness is not an epithet, but the ideal state of being. And Voidwrought is the imperfect avatar of ideal Metroidvania exploration. Alright, I might have went a little off the rails there, but I meant every word. MV fans absolutely love all the stuff I mentioned, as long as it's done well and is balanced, which Voidwrought, by and large, nails. I called the game the imperfect avatar of ideal Metroidvania exploration because it's just that, imperfect. But I'll get into that in a moment. First, I want to talk about how great this f***ing game is. Gosh, where do I start? Exploration's incredibly rewarding in nearly every aspect. There's so much stuff to find. Relics and souls for combat, lore items, HP upgrades, a bunch of different currencies, just a ton of collectibles. And some of these collectibles are layered so that you get rewards beyond the reward of just collecting them. The devotees, for example. Finding one was always so exciting because it meant you could dig a little deeper in your shrine, which meant you were about to get another reward. And even that reward could come with layers of rewards. The dopamine hits, at times, could get overwhelming. And can we just look at this map for a second? I think I'm like 30 minutes into the game at this point. And do you see all these markups? This is just me starting the game. The ability teasing Voidwrought does is off the charts. I show this for two reasons. One, you better be marking up your map as you play or you will regret it. And two, just imagine the backtracking in this game from this single screenshot. If you're a studious player, your entire map will look like this. That brings me to my next point. Biomes in Voidwrought are not levels. Biomes in Voidwrought feel like sections in an interconnected world. I know that sounds funny to say about a Metroidvania, but let me explain. There are so many MVs where biomes are treated like levels. You go in, get your new ability, beat the boss, and never come back. Sometimes you can return to get an unnecessary collectible, but other than that, it just feels like you completed the level and can move on to the next level. Probably the worst offender for this is convergence. You never have to revisit any biome if you're observant enough in your first playthrough. Every area in Voidwrought's world is always relevant. Biomes connect in surprising ways to allow access to different areas. Important items are hidden deep within biomes that you can't collect yet, forcing you to return later. And cashing in on all that ability-teasing is so sweet. I've talked about it on my channel before, but I'd call Voidwrought's exploratory approach zigzag exploration. Named so because you'll be zigzagging all over the map in order to find the critical path. Something really interesting about Voidwrought's zigzag exploration is that it doesn't utilize chunking, another highly academic term I've made up to describe MV exploration. When a game chunks, that means it opens up a biome a little bit at a time, forcing players to zigzag between biomes as they unlock abilities to delve deeper into those biomes. Bow Path of the Teal Lotus is a perfect example of chunking. In Bow, you can go to either the mountains or the forest, but regardless of whichever biome you choose, you'll eventually get ability gated and have to go to the other biome to get the ability necessary to go deeper into the first biome you got stuck in. Voidwrought doesn't do this. I mean, it does to an extent because it has ability gating, but chunking is not its core exploratory philosophy. Voidwrought is truly open. Maybe more so than even Hollow Knight, but I'd really have to sit down and think that through. Point is, Voidwrought doesn't curate how you explore its world and actively encourages you to get lost. I assume there's a quote-unquote correct or intended path for you to follow, but it is by no means laid out for you. Looking back, I can see dozens of paths I could have taken sooner and items I could have found faster and abilities I could have obtained quicker. No joke, there were 2 major abilities in the game I could have gotten way sooner had I not made that wrong turn at Albuquerque. In some instances, had I gone left instead of right, I'd have gotten abilities that would have helped me out tremendously. Sometimes my MV ADD gets the best of me. So yeah, even most of the abilities in this game can be obtained in whatever order you want. And you'll obtain them in some unusual places, meaning you don't just kill a boss and get a new skill. Voidwrought likes to keep you on your toes when it comes to finding new abilities and skills to open paths forward. Got some potential minor spoilers coming up that involves me talking about the unique ability I went on and on about in the abilities and platforming section. So go to this timestamp to skip potential spoilers, or for those watching on your TVs, mute and come back in about
70
seconds. When Spoileroid's no longer on the screen, you're free to unmute. Okay, so let's return to my personal experience with Voidwrought, which, as you'd imagine, is largely influencing my extreme love for its exploration. Getting the unstable nuclei early in my run greatly affected the game's tone for me. Something that I'm an absolute simp for is when a Metroidvania creates this feeling that I shouldn't be exploring where I'm exploring. And the unstable nuclei does just that. Like I mentioned earlier, the unstable nuclei devalues a majority of the abilities you unlock in this game. The double jump, the wall jump, the grip, the hook shot thing, they may be faster and easier to use and much more convenient, but when you don't have those abilities, the unstable nuclei is perfect. So many times those little rings would laugh at me because I didn't have the hook shot, but I wasn't hearing it because I'd find some way to use the unstable nuclei power to move forward anyway. I did so much sequence breaking in this game, Even Rabby Ribby was jealous. And because of all this sequence breaking, or perceived sequence breaking, I always felt I was somewhere I shouldn't be. It was an amazing feeling. I've discussed how rewarding finding collectibles is and how rewarding it is to feel like I'm exploring places I shouldn't be, but another facet that makes Voidwroug's exploration rewarding is the intrigue. There are so many locales with so many interesting and spooky and mysterious vibes. You want to keep exploring just to see what's around the corner. What are these skulls on the surface? What the heck is this window? What the f*** are you? And this intrigue extends to some of the game's quote-unquote puzzles. Why did I just destroy this rock? What do these blocks do? Why did I flip that lever to turn on this light? What the crap is going on in this game? You will be hooked, trust me. And what's exploration without a good map? Voidwrougt's map has color-coded biomes, it marks room entrances, and it gives borders that show you where you have and haven't been. Heck, it even comes in minimap form. Just make sure you mark up your map because you will be doing a lot of backtracking. And I know I said this game is open and wants to see you lost, but that's not entirely true. The game does like to place objective markers on the map at certain times, so don't think you'll be completely aimless your entire journey. And the game has a very good fast travel system that actually gets a little better as you progress. Okay. Now that I've showered the game with seemingly endless praise, it's time to get real and talk about one of the game's biggest missteps. Remember just a few minutes ago when I called Voidwrought the imperfect avatar of ideal Metroidvania exploration? It's time to bring up its imperfection, going for its true ending and trying to 100% the game. First, I'll give credit where credit's due. The devs created a compendium that tracks items discovery completion by biome, though I hear the Switch version is currently lacking some details that the PC version has. The problem is that there are currently no tools in-game to help you track down any missing items. There is a soul you can find that's supposed to help, but it's very limited, so much so that I can almost say its inclusion, as of the publication of this video, is pointless. It is not very helpful. Typically, this isn't an issue for me because I rarely 100% MVs. I'm just not a completionist, and I'm not just saying that because I don't scam charities. But I do like to find everything necessary to attain a game's true ending. And to get Voidwrought's true ending requires you to find every single one of a certain thing. And when the true ending is blocked because you're missing 2 of something and there's no tool to help you find these things, it can be super disheartening. It happened to me in Blasphemous 2 when I was searching for that one baby I missed. For all you out there who do like the 100% games, Voidwrought is gonna be painful for you. I just want to quickly pour one out for Demogen, because I know making this map has been driving him bonkers. And I want to give a shout out to Constantine and Phantasmagoria for their help in tracking down what I needed to get that true ending. You two saved me a lot of heartache and time. So yeah, my one real critique for exploration is that I wish there were some in-game tool to help me find stuff. I will say that the devs have been receptive to this feedback and are currently working on a solution, so that's exciting. I guess I'm finally done with exploration. Exploration in Voidwrought is some of the best I've experienced in an MV. It's so open and encourages you to break it and experience its world however you want to experience it. It's exceptionally rewarding with its collectibles and its biomes and all of its intrigue. Yeah, it does drop the ball when it comes to providing tools to help players 100% the game, but I have faith that the devs are working on something to alleviate this pain so they can make my video outdated. You all know how much I love it when these devs make my videos obsolete.
Atmosphere, narrative.
You know what I love about Voidwrought? How seriously it takes itself. I'm not being facetious or sarcastic. I really do like the dark story it's telling and how committed it is to its dark tone. There is no humor in this game. There are some instances that could be construed as dark humor, but Voidwrought plays everything off as seriously as a heart attack. You are immersed in this dark world from beginning to end. There's a surprising amount of dialogue from NPCs, though the simulacrum is a silent protagonist. A majority of the story will be found in journal entries and lore rocks, so make sure you put your reading glasses on, because if you don't do your assigned reading, this game will make absolutely no sense to you. Heck, I did a lot of the assigned reading, and I'm still confused on some things. I'll figure it out eventually. Or I'll just wait for a YouTuber smarter than me to make a video. The game's presentation is incredible, and the degree of polish is outstanding for a 3-person team. I didn't experience one bug throughout my entire playthrough. I loved the art direction and the enemy and boss designs, and the writing is exceptionally well done. I'd wager the game's writer has an English degree or something, and some of the music was straight fire. Check these out. As far as the narrative goes, it's your typical Souls-like affair. You're exploring an ancient civilization that collapsed a long time ago, and you're learning about it by reading a bunch of shit like you're some kind of nerd. Okay, now I am being facetious, because I eat this shit up. Overall, I liked the story, at least what I gleaned of it. Really, I was just digging the vibes and the weird locales. Plus, I'm staying intentionally vague as not to spoil anything. Just know I really liked what was going on here. And as I mentioned earlier, there is a true ending, which I always love, but getting it was a true pain in the ass. And that'll do it for this section. The presentation ate, the music's extra, and the narrative's bussin'. I let my daughter write this section summary.
Final thoughts and score.
In my 9-hour playthrough to get the bad ending, I had a lot of fun with Voidwrought. Though combat is a little on the easy side, it's still a blast to slash enemies with your claws and pogo off their heads. The game's open world exploration is some of the most rewarding I've experienced in the genre, and its darkly immersive world and intriguing lore will keep you hooked. While the bosses don't quite pack the punch some MV fans might hope for, and true ending completion can feel a bit cumbersome, this game's layers of mystery and the freedom to explore make it a standout experience. I award Voidwrought an 8.5 out of 10. Voidwrought is available on PC and Nintendo Switch. I played it on the Steam Deck with 0 issues and am giving it a Steam Deck rating of verified.
Tier placement.
Voidwrought is an exceptional Metroidvania with exceptionally rewarding exploration, satisfying platforming mechanics, an impressive open world design, and a dark, immersive atmosphere. However, its lack of challenging bosses might disappoint players. Plus, with the current limitations around item tracking, true ending completion will frustrate completionists. Because of those last 2 points, it's really easy for me to place Voidwrought in the A tier. However, I feel like those issues are just a patch away from being non-issues. The devs have said over on Voidwrought's Discord that they're busy balancing the bosses and creating an item tracking solution as we speak. Those enhancements would greatly improve the game. So I'm going to place Voidwrought in the A tier with the caveat that if these post-launch enhancements happen, Voidwrought will easily rise into the S tier because the game really is that good. Now, don't let my critique about how tough it is to get the true ending deter you from trying out this amazing game. Even when I got the quote-unquote bad ending, I still had an absolute blast with Voidwrought. It is truly exceptional. Devs just gotta be careful asking perfection from players when they don't give players the tools to reach perfection. So, if you're an MV fanatic, you'd best not avoid this potential masterpiece.